Sometimes I stare at maps for fun when I'm gaming, or just looking at a poster of a world map your mom got you for your birthday. And after enough staring, I think, why does it look like this? And what would it look like if history went a different way? Today I'll be looking at Canada, the Great White North. Specifically, we'll be looking at the Canadian provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan. Situated between the Boreal Forest, the Rocky Mountains, and the Great Plains, together the two provinces encompass an area of over 1.3 million square kilometers, or 816,000 square freedom units. It literally takes 12 hours to cross this massive stretch of land on the short side, driving at highway speeds. These two provinces share a close history together and at one point were part of the same territory and almost became one province instead of two. Called the Northwest Territories, despite having some land that isn't on the west half, the Northwest Territories was basically a temporary administered holding before the land had enough population to be incorporated and have its own local government. Territories are more or less directly under the authority of the Canadian Parliament. Then, after the population of the territory is high enough, it is then incorporated into a province, which is like states in the US. Also, look at this map from the 1900s. It's so weird to see it look like this. Manitoba is just a cube.
I'll bet they won't have. Wow, they have it square.
In 1905, these lands were being considered to be incorporated after the population of the area had increased significantly from people settling in those lands. Sir Frederick Wilhelm Alfred Gordon Hulton, yes, that is his name, I don't know why it's so fucking long, was at the time the premier of the Northwest Territories. His vision was to create one massive western province. What would this province be called? Personally, I think Saskatchewan, a mutant hybrid of the two names, would be the best fit. But in reality, Sir Longname wanted the province to be called Buffalo, which is a good name, but not as good as Saskatchewan. But the current Prime Minister of Canada, Old White Guy, wanted to avoid giving too much power to Western Canada, and that this large stretch of land would be too hard to administer as one single entity, even though Ontario and Quebec at the time were quite close to this size. Instead, they compromised and split the land into two provinces via the process of mitosis. Being split at the 110th meridian, which became the provinces Alberta and Saskatchewan, with Edmonton being the capital of Alberta and Regina being Saskatchewan's capital. The two provinces in 1905 had a population around 260,000 people, 160,000 in Alberta and 100,000 in Saskatchewan. Back then they had very similar populations, but today this is vastly different. Alberta has 4.4 million people while Saskatchewan has 1.18 million. Basically the same size as each other, yet it's such a huge population discrepancy between the two today. Most of the population today is situated within cities.
Yeah, I'm from Saskatchewan.
During my extensive research, I came across what is known as Palliser's Triangle. This area of land that's sorta in a triangle shape encompasses the land which are part of the Great Plains. It sounds similar to the Bermuda Triangle, but it's not similar at all. John Palliser set out on an expedition a long time ago to explore this region. He came to the conclusion that there's not enough rainfall for agriculture in this area, deeming it basically uninhabitable. But many expansionists in Canada questioned his assessment, which led to many people migrating to these lands and setting up farms anyway. This land is not suitable for agriculture and is basically uninhabitable.
How about I do anyway?
Palliser's assumption was probably accurate for the time, but he didn't factor in the advancements in agriculture technology that would come during the turn of the 20th century. Today, most of the major cities and population of the two provinces are now situated within the triangle. This area is prone to droughts, but due to modern technology in agriculture and dumping tons of fertilizer into the soil, agriculture takes place anyway, and there was never any consequences to this. Both provinces have an abundance of raw resources. One of the major industries of both provinces is agriculture and livestock. This map shows the massive size of agriculture between the two provinces, which encompass all the lands in the Great Plains, and is almost all inside the Palliser's Triangle. The main crops grown in this area are cereal crops like wheat, barley, and oats, which are predominantly used to feed livestock, mainly cattle on pasture lands. In fact, almost shouldn't be called the Great Plains, rather it should be called the Great Fields or the Great Farmland. As mentioned before, the province has part of the boreal forest, and we all know what humans do when they see a tree.
Stay back, I got a chainsaw.
Forestry is a major industry of the two provinces, with a current abundance of trees, although the sustainability of this industry is questionable at best. Water is quite abundant in these two provinces, mainly outside of Palliser's Triangle. There are many massive lakes all across these two provinces and millions of small sloughs and ponds that are good for breeding mosquitoes. There is also hundreds of rivers and streams that flow from the Rockies. There is groundwater in abundance in these regions, although it is a very limited resource that is already being exploited a lot. This water will soon become very valuable in the future. Both provinces do have problems with increasing variability in rainfall. One summer there won't be any rain, the next summer we're drowning. Oil.
Gib OiL.
Oil is mainly found in Alberta, which is sometimes nicknamed the Texas of Canada, with its similarities in both oil, farming, and being right-wing. Both crude oil and oil sands is why Alberta has the third highest GDP in all of the provinces. Saskatchewan was given the shit end of the stick in terms of hydrocarbon resources. Oil currently is a very valuable commodity and has high demand, but as time goes on this will soon lose value as society moves away from hydrocarbon energy sources. You can't talk about the colonization of lands in the New World without talking about people that were there first. Alberta and Saskatchewan was inhabited by a variety of Aboriginal peoples such as the Cree, the Sioux, and the Blackfoot Confederacy. Key phrase: was. Many parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan do still have these native peoples, mainly on reserves. I won't go into much detail about the hardship these people faced back then and today, or about the horrific atrocities that were committed against them, like the residential schools, because me just oversimplifying this topic would not do the true justice. Moving on from those dark topics, what if Sir Frederick Long-Ass-Name was successful in establishing his idea of one huge westernly province? The name of this province would most likely be Buffalo, although the population of actual buffalo, the animal, did not stay high after the removal of their habitat for farmland and the construction of the Canadian Pacific Railway. Today the number of actual bison in Buffalo are but a fraction of what they once were. This alternative history province of Buffalo would be the second largest province in Canada, but would still be smaller than both the Northwest Territories and Nunavut today, which are territories and not provinces, so they don't count, I guess. The population of this province today would be 5.6 million, which would make it the third most populated province, still below the juggernauts of Ontario and Quebec. The GDP of Buffalo would also be the third in Canada, with 81% of that GDP coming from Alberta alone, which mainly comes from the massive oil industry of the province. Where would the capital of this province be? When Alberta and Saskatchewan were created, the capitals of the provinces were relatively central to the province, but the largest cities of the two provinces are not central to this huge landmass. But there is an option that is probably the best. Lloydminster, this small city, is actually cut exactly between the two provinces.
To show you the power of flex tape, I sawed this boat in half!
So if Buffalo did become a province, I would say that Lloyd may have become the capital of the province. With becoming the new capital, the population of Lloydminster could have grown a lot more than what it currently is now. It currently has a population of over 30,000 people today, but I predict that it could have been as high as 200,000 if it did become the province's capital and attracted a decent amount of immigrants. How would the creation of the province of Buffalo affect history? Simple answer, it wouldn't. It's such a small change, it would have not influenced anything major in history, besides its own local history. Other than that, it would not have influenced anything significant. It'd just be the two modern provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan stitched together. Bonus question! What is the name of this piece of clothing? Is it A, a hoodie, or B, a bunny hug? Answer now on your phones. If you answered B, you're wrong, you Saskatchewan fuck. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, consider subscribing if you haven't already. And if you have a video idea or topic, leave a comment below.